Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Bismillah, alhamdulillah, wa salatu wa salamu ala rasulillah wa ba'ad. All thanks and praise are due to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and may His peace and blessings upon His last and final messenger, His family, His companions, and those who follow them until the end of times. Welcome to lesson number 16 of Tafsir al-Jalalayn. Alhamdulillah, yesterday we were able to cover verses 166 to 177. And inshallah today we are going to pick up right where we left off with verse number 178. So I'm going to have our beloved and dear student Abdul Razak read the paragraph from the tafsir, and then I will translate and comment. So go ahead and start for us, yeah? Abdul Razak, Bismillah.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. قال الإمام جلال الدين السيوطي رحمه الله تعالى: يا أيها الذين آمنوا كتب فرض عليكم القصاص المماثلة في القتل وصفا وفعلا. الحر يقتل بالحر ولا يقتل بالعبد، والعبد بالعبد، والأنثى بالأنثى. وبينت السنة أن الذكر يقتل بها، وأنه تعتبر المماثلة في الدين، فلا يقتل مسلم ولو عبدا بكافر ولو حرا. فمن عفي له من القاتلين من دم أخيه المقتول شيء بأن ترك القصاص منه، وتنكير شيء يفيد سقوط القصاص بالعفو عن بعضه ومن بعض الورثة. وفي ذكر أخيه تعطف داع إلى العفو، وإذان بأن القتل لا يقطع أخوة الإيمان. ومن مبتدأ شرطية أو موصولة والخبر فاتباع، أي فعلى العافي اتباع للقاتل بالمعروف بأن يطالبه بالدية بلا عنف. وترتيب الاتباع على العفو يفيد أن الواجب أحدهما، وهو أحد قولي الشافعي، والثاني الواجب القصاص، والدية بدل عنه، فلو عفا ولم يسميها فلا شيء. ورجح وعلى القاتل أداء للدية إليه، أي العافي وهو الوارث، بإحسان بلا مطل ولا بخس. ذلك الحكم المذكور من جواز القصاص والعفو عنه على الدية تخفيف تسهيل من ربكم عليكم ورحمة بكم، حيث وسع في ذلك ولم يحتم واحدا منهما، كما حتم على اليهود القصاص وعلى النصارى الدية. فمن اعتدى ظلم القاتل بأن قتله بعد ذلك، أي العفو، فله عذاب أليم مؤلم في الآخرة بالنار أو في الدنيا بالقتل. ولكم في القصاص حياة، أي بقاء عظيم، يا أولي الألباب ذوي العقول. لأن القاتل إذا علم أنه يقتل ارتدع فأحيا نفسه، ومن أراد قتله فشرع لعلكم تتقون القتل مخافة القود.
So yesterday we ended our discussion on verse number 177, which is a very beautiful, very comprehensive verse, which is known as Ayatul Bir. It is the verse that gives us a total description of what it looks like to be a person of righteousness. And we said it is somewhat a summary of all of Islam. Now in this next verse, in verse number 178, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is speaking about the rule of al-Qisas, which is usually translated as retaliation. So we'll go through what Imam al-Suyuti rahimahullah has written here, and then we'll go over a brief overview of the rules of Qisas. So Imam al-Suyuti, he comments on verse 178, but even before reading the commentary, let's go through the verse and translate the verse, and then we'll go through what Imam al-Suyuti rahimahullah has written. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, يا أيها الذين آمنوا كتب عليكم القصاص في القتلى. That, O you who believe, retaliation has been prescribed for you in the case of murder. الحر بالحر والعبد بالعبد والأنثى بالأنثى. A free man for a free man, a slave for a slave, and a female for a female. فمن عفي له من أخيه شيء فاتباع بالمعروف وأداء إليه بإحسان. If one is somewhat forgiven by his brother, the recourse is to pursue the former with fairness, and the obligation is to pay it to the latter in a nice way. ذلك تخفيف من ربكم ورحمة. That is a relief from your Lord and a mercy. فمن اعتدى بعد ذلك فله عذاب أليم. And whoever transgresses after all that will have a painful punishment. So Imam al-Suyuti rahimahullah says, يا أيها الذين آمنوا, O you who have believed, كتب فرض. So Imam al-Suyuti himself is clarifying that the verb kutiba, it means فرض. It has been made obligatory. It has been prescribed upon you. Al-qisas. Alaykum al-qisas. So, O you who have believed, qisas, the rule of retaliation, has been made obligatory upon you, or has been prescribed upon you, fil qatla, in the cases of murder, or regarding the murder victim. And then Imam al-Suyuti explains al-qisas as al-mumathala. Right? Al-mumathala, equivalency, or retaliation. Then he says, wasfan wa fa'lan. Where is the equivalency between the crime and the punishment? Wasfan, in terms of its attributes, wa fa'lan, and in terms of the act itself. So wasfan means أن مماثلة العقوبة تكون في صفة المجني عليه. That the equivalency is going to be in the attribute of the victim as well. And that is why Imam al-Shafi'i says that, a Muslim is killed because of a Muslim, but a Muslim will not be killed because of a non-Muslim. And we'll get into the details of that. Or a free person will be killed because of a free person, but a free person will not be killed because of a slave. But that's according to Imam al-Shafi'i rahimahullah. So wasfan is talking about the attribute of the victim. And then fi'lan is talking about the act. That according to Imam al-Shafi'i rahimahullah, as much as possible, the same way the victim was killed, the criminal, the offender, the murderer will also be put to death, right? In a similar fashion. And that is what is meant by al-mumathala fil qatla wasfan wa fi'lan. The Hanafis say that it's always bisayf, al-qabadu bisayf, regardless of how the victim was killed. The murderer, if they're found guilty through the proper process, and the heirs and the family and does not forgive the criminal, then they'll be put to death by the sword or whatever the death penalty may be. Alright. Al-hurru yuqtalu bil-hurr. A free man will be killed for a free man. And what that means is that the victim was someone who was free, and the murderer, the criminal, was also someone who was free, then the rules of qisas will apply to them. But he says, وَلَا يُقْتَلُ بِالْعَبْدِ. But a free man will not be killed for a slave. And this is according to Imam al-Shafi'i rahimahullah. As for the Hanafis, they say no, that even a free man can be killed because of a slave. Meaning if the victim is a slave and the criminal is a free man, they can also be put to death. But here he says, وَلَا يُقْتَلُ بِالْعَبْدِ. But a free man will not be killed because of a slave. And that is the opinion of Imam al-Shafi'i rahimahullah. وَالْعَبْدُ بِالْعَبْدِ. Right? And the slave will be killed for the slave. وَالْأُنْثَى بِالْأُنْثَى. And the female for the female. وَبَيَّنَتِ السُنَّةِ. And the sunnah has clarified and explained أَنَّ الذَّكَرَ يُقْتَلُ بِهَا. That a male will also be killed because of a female. Meaning if the victim is a female, and it happens that the criminal, the murderer, was a male, then he can also receive the punishment of qisas, the punishment of retaliation. And there's agreement across the board regarding that as well. وَأَنَّهُ تُعْتَبَرُ الْمُمَاثَلَةُ فِي الدِّينِ. Imam Suyuti rahimahullah is also highlighting that equivalency is also given consideration in terms of religion. فَلَا يُقْتَلُ مُسْلِمٌ وَلَوْ عَبْدًا بِكَافِرٍ وَلَوْ حُرًّا. So much so that a Muslim, even if they are a slave, will not be killed because of a non-believer, even if they were free. So the scenario that he's describing is that the victim is a non-believer who happened to be free, and the criminal was a Muslim slave. So according to Imam al-Shafi'i rahimahullah, here the rules of qisas will not apply because there's no equivalency in terms of religion. But the Ahnaf, the Hanafis say that no, that is not necessarily the case, but we will go with the general ruling of an-nafsu bin-nafs. That yes, even a slave will be killed because of killing a free person. And that is the position of Imam Abu Hanifa rahimahullah regarding that particular issue. And I believe, yes, that is the position of the Hanafis. Alright, and then we'll get into the details here a little bit. So we can translate qisas as retaliation or retribution. Right? Qisas is usually translated as retaliation or retribution, and it follows the principle of an eye for an eye. It's also known as lex talionis. And that is the law of retaliation, whereby the punishment resembles the offense committed in kind and degree. So qisas is related to the crimes of murder in serious cases of bodily injury. It is available to the victim or the victim's heirs against a convicted perpetrator of murder or intentional bodily injury. And the forms of punishment mentioned under qisas, they aim to seek justice and redress by their equivalents. So if someone commits intentional or premeditated murder, and that is the particular case that's being highlighted here in verse number 177 or 178. Fil qatla. We are talking about the crime of murder. We're talking about intentional or premeditated murder, which in common law we call it first degree murder. And then they are found guilty through the official court process. They're actually found guilty in the court of law. Then they are going to be subject to the rules of qisas. And in the case of premeditated murder, the punishment of qisas here is that they will also receive the death penalty. That is the mumathala, that is the equivalency, that is the retaliation. That because they are guilty of committing premeditated murder, now they are also deserving of death, because they have committed such a heinous and gruesome crime. Now, the victim's family, they have three options. The victim's family has three options. If they want, they can have qisas carried out. They can choose for the death penalty to be applied to the person that's found guilty. That's an option that they have. But if that option wants to be exercised, then all of the heirs of the victim have to agree. If all of them have unanimous agreement, then that punishment will be carried out. If even one of them forgives the criminal, if one of them even forgives the convicted criminal, then the qisas punishment will not carry out and be carried out, and will automatically go towards ad-diya, the blood money. Then the criminal will be required to give this sort of compensation, which is in the form of blood money, and the books of fiqh detail what that amount actually is. And there's even a third option, which is total forgiveness. That if all of the heirs of the victim, all of his family, agree to forgive the perpetrator, the criminal, then that is also legitimate. So basically, in cases of premeditated murder, in cases of premeditated homicide, first degree murder, there are three options. Number one is qisas, and that is what's being highlighted here. Al-hurru bil-hurr, wal-abdu bil-abd, wal-untha bil-untha. The second is forgiveness. If one or more of the heirs forgive, or if all of them forgive, then there will just be diya, there will be blood money. And then if all of them forgive it, then it will be total, complete forgiveness, and there will be no qisas and no blood money as well. So in this first portion of the verse, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is just clarifying that there's this mumathala going on. There's this retaliation. That kutiba alaykumul qisasu fil qatla. That the rules of qisas, or the action of qisas, has been prescribed for you in the cases of murdered people. Al-hurru bil-hurr, a free person for a free person. Wal-abdu bil-abd, slave for a slave. Wal-untha bil-untha, and a female for a female. And based off of other evidences and in the light of other proofs, the Hanafis say that even an abd bil-hurr, that the slave will be put to death for a free person, and a free person can be put to death because of a slave. And also in terms of gender, it can go both ways. Now Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala goes on and He clarifies the whole aspect of forgiveness here. فَمَنْ عُفِيَ لَهُ مِنْ أَخِيهِ شَيْءٌ فَاتِّبَاعٌ بِمَعْرُوفٍ وَأَدَاءٌ إِلَيْهِ بِإِحْسَانٍ. However, if one is somewhat forgiven by his brother, the recourse of the latter is to pursue the former for blood money with fairness, and the obligation of the criminal is to pay it to the latter in a nice way. So فَمَنْ عُفِيَ لَهُ مِنَ الْقَاتِلِينَ مِنْ دَمِ أَخِيهِ. Whoever amongst the murderers, whoever amongst the criminals is forgiven for the blood of their brother, they are forgiven for the act of murder. Al-maqtul, shay'un bi-an turika al-qisasu min. How are they forgiven? That turika al-qisasu min, that the retribution or retaliation is abandoned, it's left. They don't want to carry it out. Rather, they have decided to forgive the perpetrator, to forgive the criminal. And he says, وَتَنْكِيرُ شَيْءٍ, The fact that the word shay here is nakira, it is indefinite. يفيد سقوط القصاص بالعفو عن بعضه. It gives the benefit, it conveys the meaning that qisas falls off. Qisas drops off even if only some of the heirs forgive. Even if one heir. Right, so for example, if the murder victim had 2 children, he had 2 sons. Right, so the decision is in their hand. If even one of them forgives it, then qisas falls off and it automatically moves to ad-diya, this compensation. وَمِن بَعْضِ الْوَرَثَةِ. Right, so يفيد سقوط القصاص بالعفو عن بعضه. Sorry, the بعض here is عن بعض الدم, بعض الدم, meaning the person forgives a portion of the crime. وَمِن بَعْضِ الْوَرَثَةِ, or even one of the heirs forgives the crime. وَفِي ذِكْرِ أَخِيهِ تَعَطُّفٌ دَاعٍ إِلَى الْعَفْوِ. Now Imam Suyuti highlights a very intricate point here. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, فَمَنْ عُفِيَ لَهُ مِنْ أَخِيهِ. Right? And he uses the word brother here. There's تَعَطُّفٌ دَاعٍ إِلَى الْعَفْوِ. There is a sort of sympathy and compassion that is calling towards forgiveness. Because although a crime took place, right, although a heinous crime took place, the criminal is still your brother. Right? The criminal is still a Muslim. And it doesn't sever the bond of brotherhood. So it says, سقوط القصاص بالعفو عن بعضه وفي ذكر أخيه تعطف داع إلى العفو وإيذان بأن القتل لا يقطع أخوة الإيمان. Right? That this crime of murder, it doesn't sever the tie, it doesn't sever the bond of brotherhood. So basically there is a slight indication in the verse that is encouraging forgiveness. That qisas is your right. You have the right for that thing to take place. But there's a slight encouragement towards choosing al-afu, choosing forgiveness and settling for compensation for the blood money. Now he's highlighting this grammatical point that فَمَنْ عُفِيَ, the man at the beginning is مُبْتَدَأٌ شَرْطِيَّةٌ. That is the subject of this new sentence and it is conditional. Or he's saying mawsuda, it is a relative pronoun, which means الَّذِي, right, the one who. And the khabar would be فَاتِّبَاعٌ بِالْمَعْرُوفِ. Right, فَاتِّبَاعٌ بِالْمَعْرُوف means to pursue the criminal with goodness. فَاتِّبَاعٌ أي فَعَلَى الْعَافِ اتِّبَاعٌ لِلْقَاتِلِ بِالْمَعْرُوف. Right, it becomes binding upon the one who forgives to pursue the killer, right, to pursue the killer بِالْمَعْرُوف, with goodness, with fairness. بأن يطالبه بالدية بلا عنف, by demanding the payment of the diya from him, but without being harsh, without being rude, without being aggressive. Because you've forgiven him for the crime, and it's your right to get the compensation from him, the diya, the blood money, but it should be sought and it should be asked for and requested and demanded without unf, without any harshness, without any rudeness, without any force. وترتيب الاتباع على العفو يفيد أن الواجب أحدهما. And the fact that demanding or pursuing the killer for repayment is built upon forgiveness, it conveys the meaning that what is obligatory is one of the two things. Meaning it's either qisas is mandatory as a punishment, or the diya is mandatory, right, as a punishment. It's one of those two things. One of those is wajib. وَهُوَ أَحَدُ قَوْلَيِ الشَّافِعِي. And that was one of the opinions of Imam Shafi'i rahimahullah. That in the cases of premeditated murder, the rule is either qisas or diya. And both of those are wajib. Yani both of those is what comes into play as the punishment. Either qisas, yani the death penalty for the killer, or diya, the payment of the blood money. وَالثاني, the second opinion of Imam Shafi'i, al-wajibu al-qisas. No, the actual punishment is qisas, وَالدِّيَّةُ بَدَلٌ عَنْهُ. And the blood money is a substitute for it. So the actual consequence of the crime, the actual punishment is qisas, but if a person happens to forgive and will accept the diya instead, then that is a substitute for qisas. فَلَوْ عَفَى, so if the person forgives, وَلَمْ يُسَمِّهَا, and he doesn't mention anything about the blood money and the blood payment, فَلَا شَيْءَ, then it's just total, complete forgiveness. وَرُجِّحَ, and this opinion of Imam Shafi'i is rajih, yani this is the preferred opinion in the Shafi'i madhab, according to what Imam al-Suyuti rahmahullah is saying here. وَعَلَى الْقَاتِلِ أَدَاءٌ لِلدِّيَّةِ إِلَيْهِ أي العافي وهو الوارث بإحسان بلا مطل ولا بخس. And it is upon the killer, right? It is upon the killer to pay it, meaning to pay the diya, to pay the blood money in a nice way, in a good way. So وَعَلَى الْقَاتِلِ, and upon the killer, أَدَاءٌ is to pay, لِلدِّيَّةِ, to pay the blood money, إِلَيْهِ, to the one who forgave, meaning to the heirs of the victim, أي العافي وهو الوارث. Right? He himself clarifies إليه, meaning to the one who forgave, and he is the heir of the victim, بإحسان, with good. What does good here mean? بلا مطل, without delaying it unnecessarily, ولا بخس, and without being stingy and tight-fisted. ذلك الحكم المذكور من جواز القصاص والعفو عنه على الدية تخفيف تسهيل من ربكم عليكم ورحمة بكم. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, ذَلِكُمْ, right? ذَلِكَ تَخْفِيفٌ مِّن رَبِّكُمْ وَرَحْمَةٌ. Right? These rulings of qisas that have just been explained, they are تَخْفِيفٌ مِّن رَبِّكُمْ. Right? This is a relief from your Lord, وَرَحْمَةٌ, and it is a source of mercy. So ذَلِكَ الْحُكْمُ الْمَذْكُورُ. Right? That ruling that has just been mentioned. What is the ruling that was just been mentioned? من جواز القصاص والعفو عنه على الدية. The permissibility of qisas, of retaliation, or forgiving the criminal and accepting the blood money, the diya, تخفيف, is a relief, تسهيل, is making things easy. من ربكم, from your Lord, عليكم, upon you. ورحمة بكم, and is a sign of mercy upon you as well. حيث وسع في ذلك ولم يحتم واحدا منهما. How is it a rahmah from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has made the affair expansive. Right? He has made the affair expansive by not singling out one of them with certainty. Rather, He gave us the choice, either qisas or accept diya, the blood money. As opposed, كما حتم على اليهود القصاص. Right? In the past, the Jews, they had to do qisas, وعلى النصارى الدية. And whereas the Nasara, they had to forgive and accept the diya, but for the Muslims, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave them this choice of either having qisas being carried out or accepting the blood money. فَمَنِ اعْتَدَى بَعْدَ ذَلِكَ فَلَهُ عَذَابٌ أَلِيمٌ. Whoever transgresses after all of that will have a painful punishment. So, فَمَنِ اعْتَدَى ظَلَمَ الْقَاتِلَ. Whoever transgresses by wronging the killer, بِأَنْ قَتَلَهُ, for example, by now killing him, even though he's forgiven him already. بَعْدَ ذَلِكَ أي الْعَفْوِ, after having already forgiven him, فَلَهُ عَذَابٌ أَلِيمٌ, for them is a painful punishment, مُؤْلِمٌ فِي الْآخِرَةِ بِالنَّارِ, a punishment that will cause pain in the hereafter, and that is the fire of hell. أو فِي الدُّنْيَا بِالْقَتْلِ, or they will have a painful punishment in this world by being killed, because now they've committed murder. Right? وَلَكُمْ فِي الْقِصَاصِ حَيَاةٌ يَا أُولِي الْأَلْبَابِ لَعَلَّكُمْ تَتَّقُونَ. There is life for you in qisas, O people of understanding, O people of reason, so that you may refrain from killing. لَعَلَّكُمْ تَتَّقُونَ, so that you may have taqwa, so that you may be mindful of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So وَلَكُمْ فِي الْقِصَاصِ حَيَاةٌ. There is life for you in qisas. That is a very interesting statement from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, which highlights some of the deep divine wisdom in this rule. Right? Highlights some of the deep divine infinite wisdom of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in this rule of qisas. أي بقاء عظيم. Right? There is great preservation for you. There is great preservation for mankind in this rule of qisas. Ya ulil albab, O people of understanding and intellect. How? He explains. He says ulul albab means ذوي العقول, right? People of intellect. لأن القاتل إذا علم أنه يقتل ارتدع فأحيا نفسه ومن أراد قتله. Right? How is there life in qisas? Because qisas itself is basically the death penalty. If a person kills someone intentionally, they commit premeditated homicide, then the punishment is that they're going to be put to death if they're found guilty. So how is their life in qisas? Imam al-Suyuti rahimahullah highlights one aspect. He says, the murderer, meaning the criminal, إِذَا عَلِمَ أَنَّهُ يُقْتَلْ, if he knows that if he's caught and found guilty, he's going to be put to death, إِرْتَدَعَ, he will become afraid. It serves as a deterrent. It will prevent him and stop him and deter him from carrying out the crime. فَأَحْيَا نَفْسَهُ, so by doing so, he's giving himself life. By preserving his own life, وَمَنْ أَرَادَ قَتْلَهُ, and now he's preserving the life of the one he intended to kill. And that is one of the, you can say, primary wisdoms of the ruling of qisas. It serves as a deterrent. That in a proper Muslim society, people will not even have the audacity or the courage to commit such a crime. Because society is supposed to be moral and upright and God conscious. And even if someone thought about committing that crime, this ruling and this law would serve as a deterrent. It would serve as stopping them and making them kind of withhold themselves. Now, فَشُرِعَ, and that's why it's been legislated, لَعَلَّكُمْ تَتَّقُونَ, so that you may become mindful and conscious of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And Imam al-Suyuti says, تَتَّقُونَ الْقَتْلَ, that you will protect and save yourselves from killing, مَخَافَةَ الْقَوَدْ, out of fear of qisas, out of fear of retribution, out of fear of being put to death. Alright, so that is a very heavy verse that deals with a very major topic, and there's a lot more that can be said upon it. So I would encourage people to go through and read more on qisas and about criminal law within the sharia. So within the sharia, one aspect of it is criminal law, and under criminal law, there's like three broad categories of punishments. There's qisas, which is retribution. Then there is the hudud punishments, the divinely ordained, determined, set punishments by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And then there's ta'zir, which is discretionary punishments from that are based on the discretion of the judges. So just really quickly once again, qisas is retaliation or retribution. And it does follow the law of an eye for an eye. It is the law of retaliation or retribution, whereby the punishment resembles the offense committed in kind and degree. And qisas is only related to crimes of murder and serious cases of bodily harm. That if I intentionally harm someone and I injure them on purpose, then qisas comes into play. Unless they forgive me, and then I'll have to give some sort of compensation. So it is available to the victim or the victim's heirs against a convicted perpetrator of murder or intentional bodily injury. And the form of punishments under qisas, they aim to seek justice and redress by their equivalents. And if someone commits intentional premeditated murder and they're found guilty, they will be subject to qisas, but the victim's family, the victim's heirs, will have these three options, which are understood from this verse. Option number one is qisas. That you know what, the heirs, they're upset, they're hurt, and they want the punishment to be carried out. That is their right. They have the right to do so, and the convicted criminal will then be put to death in the case of premeditated murder. Or maybe one of them wants the punishment, but one of them is willing to forgive. Right? Then the qisas punishment falls off, and it automatically goes to ad-diya. It goes to this blood money. Or maybe all of them just want the blood money. That's fine as well. And the third option is that they totally and completely forgive the criminal, and then there will be no qisas, there will be no punishment, and there will be no blood money as well. Wallahu a'lam. Now in the next verse, verse number 180, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is going to speak about an issue related to bequests and the act of bequeathing, right? Assigning a certain portion of your wealth to a relative at the time of death or to someone else at the time of death. So go ahead and read for us that next paragraph, yeah? Abdul Razak, Bismillah.
قال رحمه الله: كتب فرض عليكم إذا حضر أحدكم الموت أي أسبابه إن ترك خيرا مالا. الوصية مرفوع بكتب ومتعلق إذا إن كانت ظرفية ودال على جوابها إن كانت شرطية، وجواب إن محذوف أي فليوصي الوالدين والأقربين بالمعروف بالعدل بأن لا يزيد على الثلث ولا يفضل الغني. حقا مصدر مؤكد لمضمون الجملة قبله، على المتقين الله. وهذا منسوخ بآية الميراث وبحديث لا وصية لوارث رواه الترمذي. فمن بدله أي الإيصاء من شاهد ووصي بعدما سمعه علمه فإنما إثمه أي الإيصاء المبدل على الذين يبدلونه فيه إقامة الظاهر مقام المضمر. إن الله سميع في قول الموصي عليم بفعل الوصي فمجاز عليه. فمن خاف من موص مخففا ومثقلا جنفا ميلا عن الحق خطأ أو إثما بأن تعمد ذلك بزيادة على الثلث أو تخصيص غني مثلا فأصلح بينهم بين الموصي والموصى له بالأمر وبالعدل فلا إثم عليه في ذلك إن الله غفور رحيم.
So in these next three verses, verse 180, 181, and 182, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is speaking about al-wasiyya. Right? Al-wasiyya is a bequest. And that is that a person in their will assigns a certain portion of their wealth to, certain charities or certain individuals. And in the early days of Islam, they were advised and they were commanded to write a wasiyya for their parents and for their near relatives. Right? Because they say in the early days of Islam that the heirs were only the children. Then later on, this ayah or this ruling was abrogated by a verse in Surah An-Nisa which details the portions that every heir is entitled to, including the parents and the spouse and the children, etc. So this particular verse, verse number 180, as Imam Suyuti rahimahullah is going to highlight, the ruling of it has been abrogated and it was replaced with the ruling that is mentioned in Surah An-Nisa in the very famous verse, Yusikumullahu fi awladikum, until the end of that passage. So here Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, كُتِبَ عَلَيْكُمْ إِذَا حَضَرَ أَحَدَكُمُ الْمَوْتُ إِن تَرَكَ خَيْرًا الْوَصِيَّةُ لِلْوَالِدَيْنِ وَالْأَقْرَبِينَ بِالْمَعْرُوفِ حَقًّا عَلَى الْمُتَّقِينَ. It is enjoined upon you when death approaches any one of you and he leaves some wealth that he must bequeath for the parents and the nearest of kin in the approved manner, being an obligation on the God-fearing. So again we come across the verb kutiba, and we're going to come across it again in Surah al-Baqarah. So oftentimes in the Quran the word kutiba is a sigha, it is a word form that conveys the meaning of obligation. And that is why Imam Suyuti explains it as furida. It has been made an obligation. It has been prescribed. Alaykum, upon you, إِذَا حَضَرَ أَحَدَكُمُ الْمَوْتِ, that when death approaches any one of you, أي أسبابه, meaning the causes of death approach any one of you, إِن تَرَكَ خَيْرًا مَالًا, if they leave behind any khair. And here the word khair means mal, means wealth. So it is prescribed or it is enjoined upon you, it is obligated upon you, when death approaches any one of you and he leaves some wealth. What is al-wasiyya? Right? The bequest has been prescribed upon you. Now he says the word al-wasiyya here, marfu'un bi kutiba. Right? It is in the state of rafa' because it's the na'ibul fa'il. Right? It is the substitute of the fa'il for the verb kutiba. Yani kutiba al-wasiyatu alaykum. What is prescribed upon you? This bequest. Right? Making a bequest is prescribed upon you when death approaches one of you and they leave behind some wealth. وَمُتَعَلَّقُ إِذَا, and he says the مُتَعَلَّقُ إِذَا, it is connected to the word إِذَا إِن كَانَتْ ظَرْفِيَّة, if the word إِذَا is serving the role of an adverb. وَدَالٌ عَلَى جَوَابِهَا إِن كَانَتْ شَرْطِيَّة, and it indicates towards its answer if it's شرطية. وَجَوَابُ إِن مَحْذُوف, and the response of in is omitted. أي فَلْيُوصِي, يعني إن تَرَكَ خَيْرًا فَلْيُوصِي, if you leave behind some wealth, then make a bequest. Right? If you leave behind some wealth and death is approaching you, then make a bequest. Why? Because it is prescribed upon you, it is mandatory upon you. Right? So فَلْيُوصِي لِلْوَالِدَيْنِ وَالْأَقْرَبِينَ بِالْمَعْرُوفِ, then make a bequest for parents and the nearest of kin بِالْمَعْرُوفِ, in the approved manner, or with fairness, with goodness, bil-adl. And that's how Imam Suyuti explains the word ma'ruf here. He says ma'ruf here means bil-adl, with fairness, with justice. How? بِأَلَّا يَزِيدَ عَلَى الثُّلُثِ وَلَا يُفَضِّلَ الْغَنِيَّ, by not going beyond 1/3 of your estate, وَلَا يُفَضِّلَ الْغَنِيَّ, and by not giving preference to someone who's already wealthy. So when it comes to the issue of inheritance and a person's estate, so the rule, and this rule still applies, is that up to 1/3, you can bequest it, you can leave it to whomever you want. Up to 1/3. You can give it to whomever you want. People that aren't your heirs, right? Who aren't your heirs. In that 1/3, you can give it to whoever you want. That is the current rule. But before, they say again that wasiyah, your inheritance would go all to your children. So in that 1/3, is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala saying you should give some to your parents, right? Some portion should be assigned to your parents, and others aqrabin, to your nearest of kin, to your relatives. وَلَا يُفَضِّلَ الْغَنِيَّ, and you should not give preference to those who are already wealthy. حَقًّا عَلَى الْمُتَّقِينَ, right? This is a right, this is an obligation on the people of taqwa. So the word حَقًّا, he says grammatically, مصدر مؤكد لمضمون الجملة قبله, right? It's a verbal noun that is emphasizing the meaning of the previous sentence. Yani it is an obligation and it is a right upon the people of taqwa, على المتقين Allah, those who are conscious and mindful of Allah. Then Imam Suyuti himself says, وَهَذَا مَنْسُوخٌ بِآيَةِ الْمِيرَاثِ, this ruling is abrogated by the verse of mirath, which is the verse in Surah An-Nisa, يُوصِيكُمُ اللَّهُ فِي أَوْلَادِكُمْ لِلذَّكَرِ مِثْلُ حَظِّ الْأُنْثَيَيْنِ, until the end of that passage, where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala explicitly identifies who the heirs are and what portion of the estate and what portion of the inheritance they are going to receive. Right? So, and included in that is the parents. So this particular ruling has been abrogated. وَبِحَدِيثِ لَا وَصِيَّةِ لِوَارِثٍ رَوَاهُ التِّرْمِذِي, and the Prophet ﷺ says that there is no bequest for an heir. Alright, so according to the Sharia, a person's heirs are identified, and the portion that they're going to receive from a person's inheritance are already set and identified. So when a person passes away, they have an estate. They leave behind a certain, X amount of wealth. So in that wealth that they leave behind, the first thing that's going to be paid off are any debts they owe. So any debts they owe will be paid off. Then whatever is left, up to 1/3 of that, you can make a bequest. And that bequest can be given to people who are not included in your inheritance. They are not your heirs. It could be a charitable organization, it could be some fuqara, some masakeen, whatever it may be. And you can make it a bequest up to 1/3. And then whatever is left after that bequest, that will be distributed to your heirs according to the portion that they are entitled to. فَمَنْ بَدَّلَهُ بَعْدَمَا سَمِعَهُ فَإِنَّمَا إِثْمُهُ عَلَى الَّذِينَ يُبَدِّلُونَ إِنَّ اللَّهَ سَمِيعٌ عَلِيمٌ. Then whoever changes it after he has heard it, meaning whoever changes this bequest after hearing it, its sin will only be on those who change it. Surely Allah is all-hearing, all-knowing. So فَمَنْ بَدَّلَهُ, whoever changes it, al-isa, whoever changes the bequest, min shahidin wa wasiyin, and the person who's changing it, perhaps it's one of the witnesses, or it's even one of the people that are receiving that bequest. بَعْدَمَا سَمِعَهُ عَلِمَهُ, after they heard it, after they knew that this is what the individual wanted. فَإِنَّمَا إِثْمُهُ أي الإيصاء المبدل على الذين يبدلون, then the sin of that changed bequest is upon those who changed it. So فيه إقامة الظاهر مقام المضمر. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala could have said فإنما إثمه عليهم, or فإنما إثمه عليه, but instead of using a pronoun, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala uses an apparent thing just to clarify it. Who is the sin upon? It is upon على الذين يبدلون. It is upon the ones who changed it and altered it. إِنَّ اللَّهَ سَمِيعٌ لِقَوْلِ الْمُوسِي, because truly Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the all-hearing of the statement of the one who made the bequest. عَلِيمٌ, the all-knowing, بِفَعْلِ الْوَصِيِّ, he's all-knowing of the action of the one who's changing it, whether it's the wasi, yani the one receiving the bequest, or one of the witnesses, etc. فَمُجَازٍ عَلَيْهِ, and they will be repaid for that. فَمَنْ خَافَ مِنْ مُوسٍ جَنَفًا أَوْ إِثْمًا فَأَصْلَحَ بَيْنَهُمْ فَلَا إِثْمَ عَلَيْهِ إِنَّ اللَّهَ غَفُورٌ رَحِيمٌ. But whoever apprehends a mistake or a sin from a testator and puts things right between them, then there is no sin upon them. Surely Allah is forgiving and merciful. So, فَمَنْ خَافَ مِن مُوسٍ, right? Whoever fears janafan, whoever fears a mistake or an error from the one making the bequest. And then Imam al-Suyuti says the word musin, mukhaffafan, it's read without a shadda, as in musin, wa muthaqqala. And another qira'ah, another recitation is with a shadda, meaning muwassin, with a shadda on the sad. Muwassin, with a shadda on the sad. Janafan, maylan anil haqqi khata'an. That they have, moved away from what's right, khata'an, as a mistake, unintentional. So whoever fears an error, an unintentional mistake from a testator, from the one making the bequest, أو إثما, or they fear sin from them, بأن تعمد ذلك, that they have made an intentional mistake in their bequest by giving someone more than they deserved. And he says, بزيادة على الثلث, right, by giving more than 1/3, أو تخصيص غني مثلا, or for example, they chose only a rich person to give their wealth to, فأصلح بينهم, and now this person reconciles between them, right? He brings settlement between the parties. فلا إثم عليه, there's no sin upon that person, right? فأصلح بينهم, who is he settling in between and reconciling between? بين الموصي والموصى له بالأمر بالعدل, right? He is settling between the one making the bequest and the one receiving it, or the one who's hearing it, by telling him to be fair and telling him to be just. فلا إثم عليه, then there's no sin upon them. في ذلك, in that. إن الله غفور رحيم, truly Allah is the most forgiving, the very merciful. So just again to clarify, right, this passage, these 3 verses are talking about al-wasiyah, but the original ruling that's mentioned here is abrogated, and it is abrogated by ayatul mirath, which is found in Surah Nisa. So now when a person leaves their estate, they will not make a bequest to one of their heirs, because la wasiyata liwarithin, there's no bequest for an heir. They're already entitled to a portion of the estate according to the portions highlighted and explained by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the Quran. But up to 1/3 of your estate, you can make a bequest to maybe relatives that are not included in your inheritance, or to some poor people, or to some family, some friends, some masjid, some organization, whatever it may be. Na'am. Go ahead and recite for us the page tilawatan of the Mus'haf, and then read the first paragraph of the tafsir as well. Bismillah.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. فمن خاف من موص جنفا أو إثما فأصلح بينهم فلا إثم عليه إن الله غفور رحيم. يا أيها الذين آمنوا كتب عليكم الصيام كما كتب على الذين من قبلكم لعلكم تتقون أياما معدودات. فمن كان منكم مريضا أو على سفر فعدة من أيام أخر. وعلى الذين يطيقونه فدية طعام مسكين. فمن تطوع خيرا فهو خير له. وأن تصوموا خير لكم إن كنتم تعلمون. شهر رمضان الذي أنزل فيه القرآن هدى للناس وبينات من الهدى والفرقان. فمن شهد منكم الشهر فليصمه. ومن كان مريضا أو على سفر فعدة من أيام أخر. يريد الله بكم اليسر ولا يريد بكم العسر ولتكملوا العدة ولتكبروا الله على ما هداكم ولعلكم تشكرون. وإذا سألك عبادي عني فإني قريب أجيب دعوة الداع إذا دعان فليستجيبوا لي وليؤمنوا بي لعلهم يرشدون. قال رحمه الله يا أيها الذين آمنوا كتب فرض عليكم الصيام كما كتب على الذين من قبلكم من الأمم لعلكم تتقون المعاصي فإنه يكسر الشهوة التي هي مبدأها أياما نصب بالصيام أو بصوموا مقدرة معدودات أي قلائل أو مؤقتات بعدد معلوم وهي رمضان كما سيأتي وقل له تسهيلا على المكلفين فمن كان منكم حين شهوده مريضا أو على سفر أي مسافرا سفر القصر وأجهده الصوم في الحالين فأفطر فعدة فعليه عدد ما أفطر من أيام أخر يصومها بدله.
Ahsant. So as we mentioned yesterday, after Ayatul Bir, we are going to be coming across several ahkam, right? Several legal rulings. So the first legal ruling we came across was that of al-Qisas, right? The law of retaliation, retribution. Then we came across some rulings related to al-Wasiyya, right? Making a bequest. And now we are getting into the rulings related to Sawm, relating to fasting, particularly fasting in the month of Ramadan. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us in verse 183, يَا أَيُّهَا الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا كُتِبَ عَلَيْكُمُ الصِّيَامُ كَمَا كُتِبَ عَلَى الَّذِينَ مِنْ قَبْلِكُمْ لَعَلَّكُمْ تَتَّقُونَ. O you who believe, fasting has been prescribed upon you as it was prescribed upon those before you, so that you may be mindful of Allah. So, يَا أَيُّهَا الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا كُتِبَ فُرِضَ عَلَيْكُمُ الصِّيَامُ كما كتب على الذين من قبلكم من الأمم لعلكم تتقون المعاصي فإنه يكسر الشهوة التي هي مبدأها. That O you who believe, kutiba. Again we come across this verb, kutiba, which is one of the word forms for obligation. Furida. That O you who believe, fasting has been made obligatory upon you. Furida alaykum as-siyam. Fasting has been made an obligation upon you. كَمَا كُتِبَ عَلَى الَّذِينَ مِنْ قَبْلِكُم مِّنَ الْأُمَمِ. As it was made an obligation upon those who came before you in terms of previous nations. لَعَلَّكُمْ تَتَّقُونَ. So that perhaps you may be mindful of Allah. He says لَعَلَّكُمْ تَتَّقُونَ. So that perhaps you might protect yourselves from al-ma'asiyah, from acts of disobedience and sin. Why? فَإِنَّهُ يَكْسِرُ الشَّهْوَةِ التي هي مبدأها. Because fasting breaks a person's desires, which are the origin of ma'asi, which are the beginning point of acts of disobedience. One of the main reasons and main causes why an individual engages in acts of disobedience and sin is because of their shahawat, is because of their desires and their whims. So fasting breaks that. So he says, فَإِنَّهُ يَكْسِرُ الشَّهْوَةِ. Fasting breaks your desire, التي هي مبدأها, which is the starting point or the origin of ma'asi, of acts of disobedience. أياما معدودات. For days, few in number. Right? For a few number of days. So he says أياما نصب بالصيام. He's saying the word أياما here, why is it mansub? Why is it in the grammatical state of nasab? He says it's mansub because of the word صيام. يعني كتب عليكم الصيام أياما. Alright, so it's like ظرف zaman. It is an adverb of time. أو بصوموا مقدرة. Or by an understood verb command before it. And it's understood before the beginning of this verse. صوموا أياما. Right, fasting has been prescribed upon you. So fast a few days. Fast for a few days. So that is why it is mansub. معدودات أي قلائل. Few in number. أو مؤقتات بعدد معلوم. Or that are prescribed in terms of time with a known number. وهي رمضان كما سيأتي. What are those few days? It is the days of Ramadan as is going to come. وقلله تسهيلا على المكلفين. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has made it few in number to make it easy upon those that are legally responsible. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala himself is telling us that fasting is an obligation, but it's only for a few days, just for the month of Ramadan, because making it easy for those of us who are legally responsible. فَمَنْ كَانَ مِنْكُمْ مَرِيضًا أَوْ عَلَى سَفَرٍ فَعِدَّةٌ مِّنْ أَيَّامٍ أُخَرٍ. Right? Should any of you be sick, if any one of you is sick or on a journey, then he should fast a number of other days, right, equal to the missed ones. So فَمَنْ كَانَ مِنْكُمْ حِينَ شُهُودِهِ مَرِيضًا, whoever amongst you is sick when they witness the month of Ramadan, أو على سفر, or they're on a journey, أي مسافرا سفر القصر. What type of journey? They're on a journey that allows one to shorten their prayers. Right, according to the Hanafis, that is traveling for 48 miles or more. Right, you're traveling for 48 miles or more. So if a person is sick or if a person is traveling, وَأَجْهَدَهُ الصَّوْمُ فِي حَالَيْنِ, and the fast causes him to become tired, or the fast becomes a burden on them, it becomes difficult upon them, فَأَفْطَرَ, and they choose not to fast, فَعِدَّةٌ مِّنْ أَيَّامٍ أُخَرٍ, then a number of other days. Right? Then a number of other days, meaning then they should fast a number of other days equal to the missed ones. So فَعِدَّةٌ فَعَلَيْهِ عَدَدُ مَا أَفْطَرْ مِنْ أَيَّامٍ أُخَرٍ يَصُومُهَا بَدَنَهُ, meaning he'll make it up. So here Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is explicitly mentioning that these are two valid reasons for one not to fast. Number one, al-marad, being sick, and that sickness will cause your, and if you fast when you're sick, it will cause your condition to become worse, or perhaps the illness may become more severe, or it's going to lead to some sort of bodily and physical harm, then you don't have to fast. You're excused, you'll just make them up later on. And if you're traveling, right, travel itself is the rukhsa. So if a person is on a journey, they have the option of not fasting, and they'll make it up, make up those days later on. Now, continue with the next paragraph. Yeah, Abdul Razak, bismillah.
قال رحمه الله: وعلى الذين لا يطيقونه لكبر أو مرض لا يرجى برؤه فدية هي طعام مسكين، أي قدر ما يأكله في يومه، وهو مد من غالب قوت البلد لكل يوم. وفي قراءة بإضافة فدية وهي للبيان، وقيل لا غير مقدرة، وكانوا مخيرين في صدر الإسلام بين الصوم والفدية، ثم نسخ بتعيين الصوم بقوله فمن شهد منكم الشهر فليصم. قال ابن عباس رضي الله تعالى عنهما: إلا الحامل والمرضع إذا أفطرتا خوفا على الولد فإنها باقية بلا نسخ في حقهما، فمن تطوع خيرا بالزيادة على القدر المذكور في الفدية فهو أي التطوع خير له، وأن تصوموا مبتدأ خبره خير لكم من الإفطار والفدية إن كنتم تعلمون أنه خير لكم فافعلوه.
Now in this next portion of the verse, there's a little bit of disagreement amongst the mufassirun, how it's interpreted and how it's explained. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَعَلَى الَّذِينَ يُطِيقُونَهُ فِدْيَةٌ طَعَامُ مِسْكِينٍ, and those who have the strength. وَعَلَى الَّذِينَ يُطِيقُونَهُ, right? And those who have the strength. فِدْيَةٌ طَعَامُ مِسْكِينٍ, on them there is a fidya, compensation, which is feeding a poor person. Right? فَمَنْ تَطَوَّعَ خَيْرًا فَهُوَ خَيْرٌ لَهُ, then whoever does good voluntarily, that is better for them. وَأَنْ تَصُومُوا خَيْرٌ لَكُمْ, however, fasting is better for you. إِن كُنْتُمْ تَعْلَمُونَ, if only you knew. So Imam al-Suyuti rahimahullah, he explains it in both ways. So we'll go with his explanation, then I'll provide some clarity. وَعَلَى الَّذِينَ لَا يُطِيقُونَهُ. Right, so he's saying, Imam al-Suyuti, he's saying that there is the word la is inferred here. So the meaning is, and upon those who don't have the ability. Right, وَعَلَى الَّذِينَ لَا يُطِيقُونَهُ, upon those who don't have the strength, who don't have the ability to fast. لِكِبَرٍ, because of old age, أو مَرَضٍ, because of an illness, لَا يُرْجَى بُرْؤُهُ, that cure from it is not expected, meaning they have a chronic illness. فِدْيَةٌ, and هِيَ طَعَامُ مِسْكِينٍ, what is upon them? Upon them is a compensation, is a payment, which is feeding a poor person. So according to this explanation, according to this interpretation, the word la is inferred. The word la is understood. So the meaning would be, and those who don't have the strength, and those who don't have the ability to fast, on them there is a fidya, there is a compensation, that is feeding a poor person. So that is one way that this verse has been explained, and it is a valid explanation as well. right? It says that the la is mahdhuf, وهو واقع في كثير من استعمال الفصحاء, and this type of omitting of this word is common in the Arabic language, especially those who are using eloquence. So it's وَعَلَى الَّذِينَ لَا يُطِيقُونَهُ فِدْيَةٌ طَعَامُ مِسْكِينٍ. So that is one interpretation. And what is طَعَامُ مِسْكِينٍ? أي قَدْرُ مَا يَأْكُلُهُ فِي يَوْمٍ. How much compensation should they pay? What is the fidya? Right? It is the amount that a person would eat in one day. وَهُوَ مُدٌّ مِنْ غَالِبِ قُوتِ الْبَلَدِ. And it is one mud. Mud was like a volumetric measurement. They say the literal meaning of it was like 2 handfuls. Right? 2 handfuls of the most common staple food of their city for every missed day of fasting. So that is what the general ruling is. وَفِي قِرَاءَةٍ, in another recitation, بِإِضَافَةِ فِدْيَةُ وَهِيَ لِلْبَيَانِ. And instead of فِدْيَةٌ طَعَامُ مِسْكِينٍ, it's فِدْيَةُ طَعَامِ مِسْكِينٍ. Right? بِالْإِضَافَةِ. وَقِيلٍ. So that is one interpretation. So the compensation, the fidya, is 1 mud, right? A handful of the most common food item, the most common staple food of that particular city for every missed day of fasting. That is known as 1 mud. But the ruling, he's going to mention it, we'll get there. Then he says, وَقِيلٍ لَا غَيْرُ مُقَدَّرَةٍ. And it is said that the word la is not inferred here. It is not understood here. وَكَانُوا مُخَيَّرِينَ فِي صَدْرِ الْإِسْلَامِ بَيْنَ الصَّوْمِ وَالْفِدْيَةِ. Rather, in the early days of Islam, the Muslim community was given an option between fasting or paying the fidya. Even if they were healthy, they weren't old, they could fast, but they had an option. If they wanted to, they could fast, and if they wanted to, instead of fasting, they could just give this compensation, they could give them fidya. ثُمَّ نُسِخَ. And then this rule was abrogated بِتَعْيِينِ الصَّوْمِ بِقَوْلِهِ فَمَنْ شَهِدَ مِنْكُمُ الشَّهْرَ فَلْيَصُمْ. Right? Then it was abrogated by specifying fasting during these days with the statement of Allah, which is in the next verse, فَمَنْ شَهِدَ مِنْكُمُ الشَّهْرَ فَلْيَصُمْ. That whoever witnesses the month of Ramadan, then they should fast it. قال ابن عباس رضي الله عنهما. Ibn Abbas رضي الله عنهما says, إِلَّا الْحَامِلَ وَالْمُرْضِعَةِ. Right? Except for a woman who's pregnant or nursing. إِذَا أَفْطَرَتَ خَوْفًا عَلَى الْوَلَدِ. If they choose not to fast out of fear for their child, فَإِنَّهَا بَاقِيَةٌ بِلَا نَسْخٍ فِي حَقِّهِمَا. So the ruling is still applicable to them and it is not abrogated. Meaning they don't have to fast, instead they can give fidya for every missed day. فَمَنْ تَطَوَّعَ خَيْرًا بِالزِّيَادَةِ عَلَى الْقَدْرِ الْمَذْكُورِ فِي الْفِدْيَةِ. Right? فَمَنْ تَطَوَّعَ خَيْرًا. Whoever does good voluntarily. How? By giving more than the mentioned amount of fidya. Then instead of just giving, enough food for one day, they give more than that. فَهُوَ أي التَّطَوُّعُ خَيْرٌ لَهُ. Right? Then that voluntary goodness is good for them. وَأَن تَصُومُوا خَيْرٌ لَكُمْ إِن كُنْتُمْ تَعْلَمُونَ. But fasting is better for you if you only knew. And وَأَن تَصُومُوا, he says it's mubtada. And وَالصِّيَامِ is the mubtada. خَبَرُهُ, and the predicate is خَيْرٌ لَكُمْ, is better for you. مِنَ الْإِفْطَارِ وَالْفِدْيَةِ, the not fasting and giving the fidya. إِن كُنْتُمْ تَعْلَمُونَ, if only you knew. أَنَّهُ خَيْرٌ لَكُمْ, if only you knew it was better for you. فَافْعَلُوهُ, then do it. So again, this particular verse is explained by the Mufassirun in both of these ways. So he says, وَعْلَمْ أَنَّ عِنْدَ أَكْثَرِ الْمُفَسِّرِينَ فِيهِ قَوْلَانِ. According to the majority of Mufassirun, this verse is explained in one of 2 ways. أَحَدُهُمَا أَنَّ الْمُرَادَ بِالَّذِينَ يُطِيقُونَهُ الْأَصِحَّاءُ الْمُقِيمُونَ خَيَّرَهُمْ فِي ابْتِدَاءِ الْإِسْلَامِ بَيْنَ الْأَمْرَيْنِ بَيْنَ أَنْ يَصُومُوا وَبَيْنَ أَنْ يُفْطِرُوا, and give the fidya لِأَلَّا يَشُقَّ عَلَيْهِمْ لِأَنَّهُمْ كَانُوا لَمْ يَتَعَوَّدُوا ثُمَّ نُسِخَ التَّخِيرُ وَنَزَلَتِ الْعَزِيمَ بِقَوْلِهِ فَمَنْ شَهِدَ مِنْكُمُ الشَّهْرَ فَلْيَصُمْ. Right, so one way that this is explained by the Mufassirun, which is also mentioned by Imam Suyuti, where he says qila. And that shows that perhaps Imam Suyuti thought this position is marjuh. Right, Imam Suyuti said that this is the weaker of the 2 positions. And that is that the word lam is not understood. And that in the early days of Islam, people were given this option. That if they want, they could fast. And if they want, they didn't have to. They could just give fidya instead. And the other way it's understood is that lam is muqaddara, that this lam is inferred. All right. And the second thing is that about the compensation, the fidya, according to the ahnaf, it's nisfu sa'in min burrin, right? It's half a sa' of wheat. You will give half a sa' of wheat to a poor person, aw sa' min ghayrihi, or one sa' of any other commodity, according to Abu Hanifa rahimahullah. So if a person is sick, and if they're old, and they're so sick and they're so old that they're unable to fast, then there's a rukhsa, there's a concession, and instead of fasting, they will give fidya for every missed day of fasting. So we are out of time, and we were not able to cover much today because of the verses being heavy with various legal rulings, and having an understanding of these legal rulings before approaching the Quran makes a huge difference, because it provides clarity to what is being discussed. Hopefully what we covered today clarified, inshallah, and we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to accept this effort of ours, place on our scale of good deeds on the Day of Judgment. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make us among those who read the Quran and try our best to understand it and act upon it. May the Quran be a proof for us and not a proof against us. Inshallah, we will pick up tomorrow right where we left off with verse number, I believe it's 185, inshallah. I will pick up right where we left off with verse number 185 at 5 p.m. وصلى اللهم على نبينا مولانا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم. جزاكم الله خيرا والسلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.